So what is a row home? Well, if you are not familiar with housing styles in older cities like DC and Baltimore, then you may not be familiar with what a row home is, and this may be a new term for you. So since it's a prevalent style of house in Washington, DC, we are going to talk today about what life is like living in a row home, and we're actually going to also take you inside of one. Where are we today?
1238 Florida Avenue Northeast. It's one of our newest listings, and it is a gorgeous example of a DC row home.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So I'm Melissa.
I'm Michael.
And we're going to tell you more about row homes. So Harry Wardman is basically credited as the builder of thousands of row homes throughout DC. What you kind of need to know here is that the original row home was designed in the late 1800s, and the first row homes were built on the 900 block of Longfellow Street. Wardman went on to develop throughout DC many, many homes, and he's responsible for thousands of them. There are iconic DC styles of homes throughout the city. Each neighborhood has its own clusters of styles depending on when the home was built and what the style was at that time. Now, Michael and I actually both live in old DC row homes. Mine was built in 1932. I actually found the original newspaper advertisement for our house and our block, which we'll show here. When was your house built?
So my house was built in 1915, and I actually also found a newspaper article for mine, and it was actually listed for rent along with the other 4 properties that are next to it for a whopping $17.50 per month.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it just, I love these pieces of history, and that's why I love row homes so much.
Right. Well, I'm going to actually read from our advertisement what ours said, because I thought this was so fascinating. These handsome new solid brick homes incorporate every comfort and labor-saving device known to our age. Outstanding among many modern features are Chamberlain metal weather strips, copper screens, beautifully finished recreation rooms, colored tile baths with the new chromared fixtures, cedar-lined closets having mirrored doors, colonial brass bracket lights, paneled wallpaper, double oak floors, French doors leading from reception halls to kitchens, 2 built-in bookcases in the living rooms, new McDougall kitchen unit with standard double drainboard sink, choice of Westinghouse or Electrolux refrigeration, cement front porches, screened double rear porches, built-in garages have overhead doors. We urge your immediate inspection as 2 homes in this original group of 6 have already sold before completion. What does that remind you of?
It's so interesting too, because in the article of mine, or the little write-up of mine, it said 2 homes had already been rented.
Yeah, no, it's like, so nothing ever changes here. Yeah. 90 years ago, 120 years ago. Anyway, for 8 homes, for 8 rooms and 2 baths, the price of the houses was $9,550 in 1932. Here we are, like we said, 92 years later, and we still have the same level of real estate speculation going on in the city.
So Melissa, how is a DC row home different than a townhome?
They are different, and you know that.
Yes, they aren't different in living style so much as more they are a term that predates the Homeowners Association coming into existence. So generally, anything post 1960 is going to be classified as a townhome, and anything predating 1960 is going to be classified as a row home. So townhomes are a part of communities where you share amenities or street maintenance plus a lot of green space, or what a lot of people refer to as common area. So, you'll pay a monthly amount for different elements of the property, different elements of the community, but ultimately in row homes, you don't have to pay anything that's mandated. So really, if there are shared common areas, like, a green space out front, that there isn't a written rule, but oftentimes it's just an unwritten rule. Like everybody gets together and maintains the flower boxes and things like that. Some cities will mandate, if you're responsible for the boxes up front, things like that. So,
or the yards and back, because sometimes I'm gonna, I've got, a yard in our neighborhood that, the houses all back up to it, and it's a green space, and they all share it, and they consider it like a backyard, but they share the space for it. So, but again, not mandated.
Yeah, exactly. There's a big difference in how it's regulated by the city or county.
Right. All right, well, what should you know about row home living? Well, there are definitely things that you want to know. You might have a shared chimney. Yes, you might. probably not for the fireplace, but possibly for like the boiler or something else like that that vents out the top. And that means that you have to not necessarily love your neighbors, but like find a way to get along with them, because you're going to have to share in the maintenance for all of that. We have a neighbor who allows us to pay for everything when it comes to the freaking chimney stack. Every time we see her, because she's an absentee landlord, she just rents to these poor kids as a group house situation and tortures the hell out of them, as tenant after tenant has told us. Every time we see her, she's like, oh, right, I owe you money. I forgot my checkbook. 10 years later, we put in a new chimney liner probably for her soon.
So next we're going to talk about brickwork. So brickwork needs to be repointed about every 50 to 75 years. It's a laborious task. You're going to be using a handsaw to actually grind out each of the mortar joints. And so, masons recommend doing it all at once, or, doing it within a couple of years of each other. But it is something that is incredibly important, and there's a specific type of mortar you need to use. And so you have to work with the right people.
Yeah, I describe it to people. It's basically like filling a cavity. Like there's going to be holes in the mortar eventually. It doesn't last forever. And then it has to be redone. So I have a condo building that's brick. It's an 80s special. It's certainly not anything from 100 years ago, but we're constantly repointing brick, and we do it in sections. So, and we're just chasing it, right? So if somebody has a leak, we do the brick and the mortar and all that. But to put up the scaffolding and to do everything, it's costing us, between $7,000 and $10,000 a shot. So we're also trying to spread it out. So that would be a reason, if you had a much bigger house or something like that, that it's very, very costly to do.
Yeah, and brick repointing is really vital to maintain the structural integrity of the home.
Right.
So we have to make sure that we're sticking on top of that.
All right. The next thing to know in row homes is that you are attached to your neighbors. And of course, that's the same situation in townhouses. But the thing here is that townhouses are sort of built so it's like things are a little bit more independently operating. Whereas in a row house, like we've had situations where one person has a mainline plumbing backup and it floods the basement next door, right? And so those kind of things can happen. You are attached to each other in a way. You do sort of share some of the same city services and everything. So you have to just kind of know that these things are less likely to happen in a townhome, right? Like a neighbor's backup isn't going to come into your basement because they have it set up differently, but that is what townhome living is like.
Yeah, and one of the things too, that this kind of ties in as well, is the difference between settlement and structural problems.
Yeah.
So normal settlement is going to be something that everybody's going to deal with, especially with, the type of clay that we're on in the city and our location, but ultimately, there is a big difference between settlement and structural. So from a settlement perspective, some of the floors are going to be sloping. That's normal. But if there's a center, if, the floors are sloping more towards the center, that's going to be more of a structural problem. Also, if you're going to see stair ladder cracking above like doorways, if windows and doors become difficult to open.
Stair ladder cracking is like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to if it's straight through, that's settlement.
Yeah.
Usually. We're not structural engineers, but this is what we've been experiencing with our clients.
And you'll see some too that will come through the brick, and if you're seeing it come directly down through the brick on a stair ladder crack as well, that could be even worse. And so really keep an eye on these things is very important. But ultimately, if your windows become difficult to open, if your doors become difficult to open, that is more of a sign of a structural issue and not a settlement issue. But these homes are old, so it's something that you really have to rely on the professionals. And so a report from a structural engineer is $450 to $650 in most cases. So sometimes it's worth with just that peace of mind, and they'll be able to tell you that.
Right. The next thing to know is that not all framing and walls are square. So you may find that you've got sort of discrepancies with tile. It's not going to be perfectly square or anything like that. The symmetry is sometimes hard to maintain when doing upgrades, unless you like gut everything all the way down to the studs and start back over again.
Sometimes even including the studs, because oftentimes,
the whole thing's crooked.
Twisted. That was my contractor. I thought he was going to lose his mind when he was tiling my bathroom, and it just is one of those things that he was just joking about it with me, and was just like, nothing's going to be really straight, even when I'm renovating. And I was like, whatever. Right. It's fine. It's the quirk about it.
Right.
One of the things that you definitely want to talk about is maintaining the internal temperature of the home. These older homes, even with the windows and doors being replaced, sometimes it's just not drafty in the sense, but they're just hard to maintain the heating and cooling. And so it's just something to expect unless somebody has gutted it all the way down to the studs and redone all the insulation and everything. Oftentimes you're just going to be dealing with that. So, making sure you do your regular HVAC maintenance and things like that are going to really help. And, remote thermostats and things like that are a way to help.
And the insulation, like the ad that I read where they said double screened porches, like those have all been filled in on almost every house in our neighborhood. Well, when I sit at our kitchen table, that was a porch. It's over the garage. It's very cold. The other day I was sitting there and I'm like, I gotta get a sweatshirt, right?
Yeah.
So it just happens. And we've put insulation in the garage, but you're gonna have drafty spaces, and it's old home living, unfortunately or fortunately. Like, it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
And the installation, that sort of brings us to the next place, is that every single time you get a home inspection, usually old home or new, it doesn't matter. They tell you replace and keep on top of the insulation and just make sure, because that's going to be everything in terms of maintaining the temperature inside to be comfortable for you.
Yeah, one of the big things you always have to remember is row homes have stood the test of time. They've been around forever.
Right.
And then they're going to be around forever.
Right. You don't see people knock them down. Like, you just see people renovate them down to the studs and keep the facade and everything else. Like, full brick houses are hard to come by these days. They don't build that anymore.
No, it's so expensive.
Yeah.
So one of the important things also to do is get a boundary line survey. In DC, they're provided usually as a part of the settlement, but it's always important to make sure that you check those things to understand where the easements are located on your property, because let's face it, these homes have been around forever. They've been with different families. Different things have been bartered back and forth. Things have been agreed to and not agreed to. So really understanding what's on your property and what's permitted on your property is incredibly important when you buy an old DC row home. So what updates should be completed? One of the things that I love about 1238 Florida Avenue Northeast is that the radiator in the primary bedroom is still here, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is just a piece of history. So you can add central HVAC. You can also add mini splits, different things that you can do, but still maintain the character and integrity.
Right, and the radiator heat.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a great heat source. And a lot of times people just want to rip it out because they think that the radiator takes up space or whatever.
Yeah. But don't rip it out. Keep it in.
Yeah.
It's an aesthetic of the property.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things is if you don't want the radiator out, there's a really cool fun fact is I actually found a company online that creates all these really fun radiator covers. They're all in different colors, different styles. And so you can do anything that you want to help kind of blend it in with the aesthetic of the room. So you don't have to just see the radiator. You can do the cover, and then you have an awesome ledge, for plants and different decor and things like that. So
we have several of those in the house too.
Yeah, and I think our seller made a really smart choice by keeping that radiator, because it really, when you walk into the room, you see it, and it just gives you that old world charm.
Right. All right. And then you definitely, if you're going to do central air, you want to heavy up on the electrical. These houses did not have enough electrical power coming in, so you want to upgrade to the 220.
Yeah.
And then you do that. That's, you have an electrician that does the inside part, and then the utility company has to come here. It's Pepco. They come do the outside part, hook it up, and then you're good to go. But you wouldn't be able to run like central air on the original electric that was put into these houses. Also upgrade the water and sewer line. You can find this information. DC maintains a service line, water service information site. That'll basically tell you if the lead pipes outside of your house have been updated. It's a project that they're working on, but you want to make sure that when they do that you are doing yours as well.
Yeah, and also if you go out and have a plumber and inspect it, you can also submit that information to update the service line map. So you really can be proactive in making sure that your information for your property reflects the correct materials.
Right. We had a 90-year-old asbestos-filled boiler in our house that we had removed to get that out of there.
Yeah.
Asbestos tiles, we were going to cover them, and then the glue was the problem, so we just decided to go ahead and remove it. It wasn't actually the tile. The brick repointing, like we talked about.
Yep.
You want to check permits. You want to make sure that many decades went by where nobody in DC was checking anything, and people were doing all kinds of work on their houses that was unpermitted. You want to go through and essentially, you're going to know if you come into a house that's completely renovated and you go online to DC's permit system, which is Scout, and you see there's never been a permit pulled on anything. Houston, we have a problem. That's a problem. So also you want to check seller disclosures, because they should also reveal if they've done any type of upgrades or anything like that. And those come with the contract.
Yeah, and in some certain circumstances, they will disclaim because they haven't lived in the property, because it's a trust or estate situation. But most people fill out the seller's disclosure, so it is important to review those. Those are provided to you as a part of the contract.
Right, and then if there's a crawl space under your house, you want to make sure a vapor barrier's been installed and that it's still intact and in good condition to help keep everything that sort of rises from the earth from infiltrating and getting into your house. Check age and condition of the roof. There's flat roofs on a lot of these row homes. There's also slate roofs. The slate roofs last very, very long time. You just replace the slate as needed. The flat roofs, there's only certain contractors that will do flat roofs. So you just want to make sure that you know who you're going to. We've got, people that we can refer you to. And you just want to have everything replaced because it will leak into that crawl space. That's essentially an attic, but most of these homes don't have full attic spaces that you can walk around in. It's only like 2 to 4 feet. And so you want to make sure that something's not leaking in there, because by the time it gets to the floor where you're living and you can see it, it's going to be a much bigger problem.
Yeah, especially if it's a rubber type of roof versus like a rolled asphalt. There's a big difference in the longevity of the roof. And so knowing all of those materials, it doesn't mean that it's always a negative thing that something's wrong, but just to know when you need to get ahead of it to do a replacement.
Right. All right. Well, what do we love about row homes? Well, there's so much to love about them.
Yeah, but and also here at 1238 Florida Avenue Northeast, like literally it has almost our entire list of favorites, which is really cool. So we're going to take you on kind of a walkthrough of what our favorites are.
Okay. All right. Well, Federal and Victorian architectural features here are endless. And this is the same in a lot of other houses. You have vestibules here. There's exposed brick. Wood trim, which hopefully hasn't been painted. It hasn't been painted here. We did not paint ours, but you do see a lot of it painted. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get that paint off once it's done. You have tall ceilings, turrets.
Yeah, turrets. I mean, just absolutely beautiful turrets.
Curved
especially, especially when there's 5 houses next to each other and all the different colors. It just looks so cool.
Yeah. The curved walls. We don't have a curved wall at ours, but a lot of them do have curved walls.
Here it has 2, which is amazing.
That's awesome. Large windows and then transom windows, which, you'd close your bedroom door, but you could open a transom window back before air conditioner. I don't know how people live.
I don't either.
So if you're lucky, the following may still exist in your home, having survived decades of renovations. Antique hardware and lighting. We did not have that. I had to go find an antique light dealer he was like in New Hampshire. He used to scour estate sales and then rewire all these lights, and I bought them to fill all the rooms.
Our cellar has gotten some really cool lighting.
Stained glass. Not all homes have it, and a lot of times it gets removed, but you may still have that. Pocket doors. They have to be maintained and kept up over the years, but pocket doors are amazing for separating the room spaces without taking up any additional space. And a lot of times people have removed them. Like there were just decades of time, like in the mid-century, where people just got rid of that stuff. Ornate newel posts and stairway handrails and ornate fireplace mantles.
Just beautiful. I love the fireplaces and all the different variations.
Now and the newel here, he
reclaimed from a mansion in Philadelphia.
And that's something else people do. So I'm looking for a fireplace mantle for ours because the fireplace wasn't original to our house. And so there is no mantle. And I thought there was, and somebody must have taken it down. But we found the original owner's grandkids, and they came over to visit, and they said there was never a fireplace. Somebody must have added it. So now I have to find a mantle to go in its place. And
our clients who have that row house 2 doors down actually reclaimed a fireplace for their mantle, and it was absolutely beautiful. So it is possible, and it was a whole piece, and it looks so cool, and it was really just restoring the old charm of the house.
All right, well, that's our row house tour. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions about row houses or real estate in DC and the surrounds, let us know. Our contact info is coming next.
DM us for a tour of 1238 Florida Avenue Northeast if you want to see every single bit of this amazing home.
Wanna hear you go.